If we are lucky, we eat a meal every day. Food is one of those things that is part of living, and our next guest says may need more attention in regards to educating. Educational researcher Marcus Weaver-Hightower is here to talk about how food and education go hand in hand. Thanks for coming on the show today.
It's a pleasure.
Well, you didn't start out as a researcher.
No.
You were a teacher originally?
I was a high school English teacher.
Okay. And an interesting part of your background, what led you into this research is that you had some students that were less than accommodating of your teaching, or?
Yeah, I mean, as a new teacher, you always kind of get the students that maybe not all the other experienced teachers want to deal with. So I got some relatively challenging students, and particularly the boys that were in my classroom were a challenge. And eventually, when I decided that I wanted to go back to grad school, I wanted to do some research about how to get those boys that were not doing well in my classroom to be better students, and to really get them to be able to read better and that kind of stuff. So that sort of set me on a path towards looking into kind of the politics of education, because the boys' education issues have become kind of a political hot button issue as well. So.
Sure, and part of your research was directed toward food. And that's what we want to talk about today. You wrote an article on this, and why did you want to look at school lunches and the school lunch program specifically?
Well, I've always been really interested in those parts of the school day that people don't really pay much attention to, and school food really fits that bill. I mean, if you think back to your own schooling experiences, probably you don't remember a whole lot about quadratic equations and, Civil War history and that sort of stuff. You remember things like, what you had at school lunch, whether it was really terrible or really great, who you sat with at school lunch, who you played with at recess, all of those sorts of things. And when we look at school food, it's such an important issue, and it has so many facets to it that are really important to what we do as educators, that we really need to start paying attention to it.
Well, and if you could tell us, what's the most shocking thing that you found in the research?
Well, I guess the shocking thing is just really how much we've put food to the side in terms of its importance. I mean, if we think about, how much food can really play a part in students' achievement and student health, all that sort of stuff, but what we've done is we've made it into a system in which we make give the absolute sort of cheapest food. We pay people that make it very little money, and we sort of compress it into 20 minutes that kids have to get their food and wolf it down before they go out.
Food for the masses.
Exactly.
And what about your preparation before going into this research? What sort of things did you do to research before you went into the schools?
Well, I've been looking at articles that have come through news services and doing some background research for a number of years about the kind of politics about what people believe about school food and all those sorts of things. So I've really looked at a lot of kind of the policy issues, and I've traveled really around the world to places like England, Australia, South Africa, places all over the U.S. to really look at what's going on in lots of different places about school food and how other people do it differently.
Have you seen a difference then going to other countries, and is there a country that's a great model that, in your opinion, for food for kids who are learning?
Well, I think there are a lot of different models for different facets of school food. So in the United Kingdom, particularly England, they've had a lot of different improvements that have come from Jamie Oliver's attempts at making school food better. He did a reality TV show there as well that was really quite popular and got a lot of money put into school food. And as a result, the cooks got trained better. There was a lot fresher ingredients. I went into school cafeterias there that didn't even own a freezer, right? Which is a kind of unimaginable thing for a lot of U.S. schools, because how would you reheat tater tots and chicken nuggets if you didn't have a freezer? So you can really make a lot of differences, and I think England is a shining example.
Okay. Well, and why do you think it's so important to look at this?
Well, there's a lot of reasons, really. I mean, as I said, there's a lot of issues with student achievement. Schools that feed their kids well have better test scores. Their students are more engaged, all those sorts of things. Student health is a big outcome of nutrition programs. We have obesity issues that we really need to take care of. It's a cultural thing as well. I mean, students' cultures are really wrapped up in the kinds of things they eat. You are what you eat.
Sure.
And so, when we teach kids about food in school, it's important that we teach them the right things, like the good things to eat and variety.
So a lot of reasons. Could you give us quickly what you would hope to see happen even in the next 5-10 years with our own food in schools?
Well, I think funding is one of the big things, of course. Everybody's asking for more money and it's always tight, but it's an important thing in a lot of different respects that the schools get more money. They do an amazing job with the amount of money that they get, which is about $1 per plate after you pay for the labor for it. So, I mean, anybody who can make a meal for $1, deserves quite a bit of kudos. So the funding is a big issue, but also thinking in terms of getting fresher ingredients, more variety, not always pizza and French fries.
All right. Excellent. Well, it seems to go along with eating healthy, right? Exactly.
Absolutely.
So thanks again for coming on the show today. Interesting topic.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.